Konnichiwa. Just picked up this Kona Cinder cone from the bike recyclery for €10. It's in a horrendous condition. Where to begin? At the front of the frame on the head badge, you'll see that someone's had some fun spray painting it in black, and they've covered all the decals and done a pretty rubbish job. Possibly the worst is this huge ding on the chainstay behind the crank. I don't know how that happened. One of the worst things on Konas is the cable guide dog collar that's missing on the seat tube. I've decided to make my own one instead of looking for a replacement, using an old seat post collar and also using a barrel adjuster. I've started to already grind away some of the parts to make it fit, and I think it will work. Looks like we've got quite a bit of work. We're going to have to do something about that huge dent. I'm going to need to finish doing my DIY doggy collar, and also we're going to have to clean up all that paint and try and make this frame look as aesthetically nice as possible. Not the prettiest of things, but it's going to work, and that's what's important. The spray paint that was put on the frame is a complete nightmare. Not only was there black spray paint, underneath it I've uncovered also chrome paint, so I need to remove pretty much 2 layers of spray paint. I've had to remove the spray paint with a metal sponge, which is probably going to somewhat damage the old paint before the original one anyway. This dent is so ugly we can't possibly just spray paint over it. I think what I'm going to do is buy some form of specialized mastic, notably aluminium based. We're going to fill it up and then sand down, and then after we'll respray paint over the fixed dent. Eventually I managed to remove all the old spray paint and I filled up the dent with filler. I'll post a link below for you to be able to see that. Fast forward in time, I've removed all the old paint and I've reapplied a new one. We're also going to be putting on a kind of a varnish lacquer on the frame to protect it. Right, good news. I've just received the headset for our build, so now I can start to install that and move on with the project. We can see finally everything now, a bit more lighting. I'm really happy with the results of the paint job and repairing the stay there. That was quite damaged. It's not perfect, but it's you wouldn't know it's there. I will link one of those YouTube box things to the video where I did that. Same thing for the fork. I serviced this. I will also put one of those YouTube link videos of me servicing this RockShox Indy XC from, I think it's 1998. This morning I thought I was going to need to get the tool out to fit this onto the fork. It looks like I don't need to though. It's one of those races with the spacing, so you can put this on freely by hand. The next conundrum was choosing a stem. So our choices are classic stem, slight rise, Ritchie riser bars, or we go for the shorter stem from that's actually intended for a BMX bike, and we use these really nice Moba handlebars. It does resolve our issue with the very short steerer, and I think it's a little bit more exotic and an interesting option, so we're going to go for this. Now that we've chosen all this stuff, I'm going to prepare the parts I'm going to be putting on this bike, and I've just got to wait now for a seat post in the right diameter, 26.4, to arrive, and we can complete the build. I started this project mid-November, I think. We're now coming up to mid-March, so yeah, good 5 months. Obviously there was lots of stuff to do on it, but it's not been really moving. Initially I didn't have a spare fork to put on this bike, and now I have an army of them. So I ended up working around it by putting on this kind of BMX stem or whatever. But it doesn't matter. I think that's kind of cool because it makes you change things up, adapt. The initial plan was to put on some grip shifts, and I've got some nice translucent grips to go with that. I haven't been able to find the 3x7 grip shifts, just nice classic ones. I'm going to look again, but if not, it's just going to be thumb shifters on this. For a classic kind of old school look, the only V-brakes that are available that I can think of are the XT or the LX, but of course the LX is kind of ugly actually, the LX brakes. They look like rear brakes. We're going to be putting the DX rear derailleur with the CNC Gorilla cage plate at the back on this bike build. I quite think it looks good with the silver clashing with the black. This front derailleur is really filthy. I'm going to just install it now because actually tomorrow I'm going to be finishing this off, and I'll finish polishing it. This is one of the reasons why this bike took me months to really finish. Whoever was working at the bike recycling when I got this frame had taken off the doggy collar and even took off this cable guide part underneath the bike. I don't see why. So I think I've got that in the right position for a bottom pull derailleur. I've already had an explosive where the dog collar was missing, and it took me forever to get one. And I ended up buying two from the same person, and unfortunately I didn't save it for this occasion. I also had to get a brand new 26.4 seat post, standard Callaway stuff. For the wheels, I was going to put these XT M730s with the Mavic rims, but the rims are really thick, so they're not great for V-brakes. This was obviously from the Canty era period. So instead I'm going to put another pair that I've got spare with STX hubs, bronze coloured though, which I quite like. And the rims are a little bit thinner, more probably better for V-brakes. And I've also got some Kenda tyres. Really like these Kenda tyres actually. They come in different colours as well. I hope they keep making them. Because I'm thinking about ordering another pair actually in another colour. So I need to swap out now the tyres onto these ones. I just came up with another problem. The threading for the bottom bracket shell was damaged. I've had to rechase it using an old cup. It looks like it's working though, and we can now start to install. If you look closely here towards the bottom, something's kind of dragged on this and ripped up the threading. Patience eventually led to success. I ended up putting a lock ring, not the prettiest one, because there's always this spacing between these bottom brackets. There's always a little bit left, and so I just put that there to see in between. I found a very clean set of MT60s to stick on here, and notably it hasn't got those silly bio rings. I know some people love them, I don't. To put on the bike. Yesterday I added on some varnish onto the bike. It was a bit of a mistake really, because as you see here it's made this cloudy effect on some parts, which is very, very annoying considering the amount of time I spent painting the frame. You've got a lot of thumb shifters. They're so easy to install and adjust. I really like how the blue and the green clashes. This is where you spend considerable amount of times on older bikes. The part here where the ferrule's going into, it's been bent, and so I can't fit the ferrule in. I now need to unbend it so it works. The other side was exactly the same. Very frustrating. This is how it's looking for now. The makeshift DIY doggy collar that I did. It looks like it's gonna work. So fingers crossed. The chain I'm currently installing is fairly new. I got it off another bike at one point, but you can see there's the original kind of grease on it, wax. It is a little bit long, but I don't really care. For this build, I'm going to add my favourite old school pedals, the XTM 730s. They are indeed not cleaned, and in fact they need grease on the bearings, but that will have to be for another time. Probably for the last year, I've been using Canty brakes, and the V brakes, just in comparison, now that I think about it, just vastly superior. Final adjustments I'm going to be doing when I ride. I feel it's much better. You have a better feel. Same thing for the seat and the saddle and the seat post. So even though I didn't find my grip shifts, very unfortunate, I am still going to use these translucid ones that I've got spare. I think that's everything covered for today. We're going to now need to test ride it. Well, I didn't know where to go to celebrate. I celebrate a little bit too much, in fairness. Turning up in this place. Everything turned out pretty good. I really like the green cable housing, and seems to match up quite nicely with the small amount of green on that head badge and the layering. The frame's okay to ride. I can't say it's a favourite of mine, Kona's. Personal preference, I guess. The chain is kind of jumping when in certain gears. I think it might be the middle chainring that's possibly worn, but most likely it's the length of the chain, as I didn't shorten it, which brings me up to my next point. I think I'm going to change my philosophy on the way I conduct my builds. I'm no longer going to go through the method of building up a bike and then selling it on. It's way too time consuming. I've decided now that I'm going to just keep a couple of groups and some wheels, and I will just be purchasing frames, and then that way when I'm finished with the bike I can just sell on the frame, and it will save me a load of time, because life is way too short to be spending searching for bike parts. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. We've now come to the end of this build. Thank you for listening. Hope this inspired you in some way. And until next time, I guess. Peace out.